Hi there, class of 2024 students and parents. Students, I see you're getting ready to go away to college. I want to congratulate you on that. And I have some tips that will help you in the following view graphs. Won't be too long. As I stated in the email, watch closely in the upper right corner of the slides, and you will email me the 3 code numbers that you found. And the subject of each slide. And you'll be eligible for a nice goodbye gift from us when you go to college. We want to stay in touch with you in college. We'll be talking about that another time. In addition, I have some student panel videos that I've already recorded that I want you to see before you go to college. We talked very directly about roommates being active, difficult times on the campus. And these are students that recently graduated from my program. In addition, you'll want to watch for meetings I'm going to have for students that are going to various schools back east, and one or two out here over the next 3 or 4 weeks before you go away to college. We'll be doing that, and be good for you to meet some students who used to go to your school or who are still going but are home right now, okay? All right, but we'll say more about that later. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, there, parents and students. Here's the opening slide for our presentation. Again, we'll send you a copy of the slides. Don't worry. Just watch those. In fact, we may have a way for you to click on the link down below if you're getting this on YouTube. So take a look at that too. They may be actually there. Well, let's get into the enrollment process. We're going to talk about orientation stuff, course registration issues, roommate concerns, food plans, and books and technology. I think that will be helpful. Then let's prevent stopout. Let's talk about how to prevent stopout based on my experience with schools. First of all, the orientation stuff. Parents and youth should both attend orientation, especially if either or both have never visited the campus. I need both of you to go to the campus. Parents, you're making a big investment. Students, you may have visited it before, but in orientation, you get so much great information about the school. And you have some opportunities that are not immediately available to you. During the school year, you'll wish you'd been to it a lot of times. There are some things the school will push you about concerning payment for the school. Parents, you want to pay close attention to these. They'll talk a lot about that you owe money. Because usually right about July 1st, or usually right after the first orientation, they're going to tell you owe for the first semester. That's going to be a huge amount of money you never expected. You'll wonder if the financial aid is covering it. You'll need an explanation for it. Sometimes they show it with the financial aid, sometimes not, but I can assure you of one thing. No matter whether they show it to you that way or not, you're going to be surprised by the amount. And that means that you haven't been given the correspondence to take care of your loans or approve financial aid. So you'll have to call the financial aid office. And sometimes we call the wrong office. You call the bursar or the people who collect payment, they're going to refer you to the financial aid office. There's some schools that are on the ball and they've credited the financial aid, but they really don't have the money yet. They don't actually get the money from the government, or either get the authorization internally for your scholarships and grants until around the time you start school. So you'll owe again right after Christmas for the next semester, unless there is a parent loan. And I will have more to say about that a little bit later. Okay? Have you, the student, completed the online authorizations for your direct loan? If not, parents will owe $5,500 more than necessary. And there's some steps for that too. And I'll include a short video on that, after this video on the same drive or in the same email I send you. I want to have it as a separate item, these loans. If you're paying in cash, there is a deadline for the agreement for installment payments, the 3 to 5 subpayments that occur during the semester during the orientation. They'll kind of get you signed up because they want to find out, they want to know that you have to pay. Pay close attention to your behavior agreements, students. They're going to ask you to sign several, usually 2 or 3 documents where you agree to follow the codes of behavior on your campus. There's a code of conduct usually. There's rules on alcohol and drugs. And now they have protest regulations that you understand what a good protest is. I'll include a link for my video I did on what's a good and bad protest, because I don't want to see you guys getting in trouble with that. I had one student arrested in this craziness back east. So later on I'll just look below in the email or in the description block, and I'll link you to the rules for protests, what's good protest and what's not. And that's pretty much what's going to be in the campus agreements, okay? It's a good time to think about your career or your major. There's no better time for that, students. You'll want to do that as soon as you can. All right, let's go on here. Because usually during orientation, they're going to have people from your department. And you'll start thinking about career now. You may not have before, but you need to start now. We're not talking about your major is your career. Your major is not your career. It's your preparation for a career, all right? Course registration issues. The school will work exclusively, parents, with your student on course registration, and it will not be completed at orientation. Courses will be filled and unavailable. They'll find out during registration, right there during orientation, okay? Because they're just showing them how to use the registration system. But a lot of the classes are going to be full or unavailable. This will drive you crazy as a parent because you want it all settled. But it gets all settled by the time they start the class. Registration, why is that? Because schools can't really make agreements with teachers till they know what students are going to take. So there's a delay most years. The registration, however, after your student leaves the orientation, parents, will continue online. Your advisor is an advisor, not a ruler. A lot of people, parents feel advisors should tell them what to do, and they'll frustrate you. But that's not what they do. Even if your student can't make a decision, they don't feel that's their job during the orientation. There is a solution. Have a plan, students, when you arrive for orientation. And meet online with your advisor. Sometimes they give you a number to call. You should think through your general ed course, your top 4. And here's a good list to look at. Of course, as my previous students have taken with great success. Intro to social psychology, anthropology, you see them all down here, right? They're all right here, down the bottom. Okay? Okay. Common roommate concerns. Fully cooperate with your school's roommate selection process. They might send you to social media, there might be email, there may be a call, etc. you have to make. Please cooperate. I know it's awkward talking to people you don't know, but get that done. Don't let that go to the last second. Because you're making that roommate nervous too. If they're doing it to you, it's making you nervous. One of y'all has to break the ice. This is a great experience for you to have to deal with people you're never dealt with before. Yes, your roommate will not be Black if you're not at a Black college. Just get ready for that. It could be Asian, white, Hispanic, be ready for that. It often is an international student when it's a Black college. She may be in Black college, but here you have a South Asian student, Indonesian. They're persons of color, but they're not Black African like you'd expect. Sometimes it's a Muslim student. Ethiopians I've seen, they're Africans, of course. But they like to room you with international students at Black colleges a lot, particularly if you're doing Howard or Morehouse, those kind of schools that are high profile. Sometimes the roommate is gay. Now, we've had that conversation about tolerance versus approval. I know your first thought is that why they have a gay dude in a guy's room? You know, sometimes they keep the gay students together, most times, but sometimes they don't. Don't assume all gay people want to do something with you. Don't assume that. Try to be tolerant without approving of the behavior. Just bothers you, speak up, get a different assignment, but don't wait deep into the school year and want to change. Parents, often the parents of the roommate, when you meet them, are not as sociable as you would expect. Don't worry about that. It's an awkward situation. Don't expect everybody to be as friendly. Some of my parents, some of y'all hearing this, are some of the friendliest, loving people in the world. But some people are kind of ice cold. They're not good with first impressions. This is a good time to think about your first impression too, but sometimes they're not as sociable as you want. During orientation, listen to this, calls, emails, or even move-in, please ask about the common components of the room. What about the microwave? What about a refrigerator? These may not be allowed by the college, but what if they are? Who's going to bring what? That way you won't show up on the first day with 2 refrigerators, 2 microwaves. That's extremely awkward. Please get that clarified as to whether they're allowed and then have conversations. How will you find out if they're allowed? Call the housing department. Call them up. So when you go to orientation, they tell you the rules, you already know about that. But this is good advice. I hope you're watching it and stop the video, take notes, etc. I'll make this video available too, you know that. Key things to be sure of. I'll make it available past this week, I mean. Key things to be sure of. No visitors to the dorm. Not even boyfriends and girlfriends. Oops. Get that worked out. Talk about that at the beginning of the year. Drugs and drinking, that should be a no-no. You tell them if they're doing that, you're going to turn them in. Because you could get put out of school if you knew about it, didn't tell nobody. And they will assume you knew. So if they're hitting that kush, we talked about that already, or they're drinking, and you know it's happening, you don't do nothing, you're going to get a strike against you too. You might get sanctions because you didn't tell anybody. Study times. I know you don't think about this. Are you going to study in your dorm? The dorm has a common area. It may not be big enough for everybody to study. Maybe you need that conversation. What will be your study times? Usually my students find places on campus and they have study groups anyway. But sometimes you're in a class by yourself, you don't know nobody. Where are you going to study? Will it be in the dorm? These questions, these are 3 question areas you should get resolved before you go to campus. Food plans. Remember, food is very expensive now. Whew, you never lied. I never seen a cost for college go up so fast. But that's what's happening in society. The food plans are twice the amount I remember them being. So when you waste food, excuse me. So when you waste food, it's not cool. Students normally do not eat 3 full meals, parents. Forget the 21 meal plan. It's very expensive. 10 to 14 meals a week works. Any meals that are not used during the semester are not carried over. You get to the end of the semester, they don't carry it over to the school year. You lose it. So if you have a really big food plan and it's not used, I've rolled up to campuses and I've had parents or students take me to eat 2 and 3 times, giving me free meals because they can't get rid of those. Parents, it's easy to deposit money on a food plan if they count zeros out, okay? It's easy. Okay, students, please join the rec center to avoid the famous freshman 15. That's 15 pounds, by the way, so you don't gain weight. I see students though gain weight usually I see them at Christmas. I don't see it quite as much anymore. But every school has a nice rec center you should use. Books and technology. Get used books. Use Chegg.com. They're the best for you to use books, guys. You can rent those books for a semester for a few dollars, and they'll send you a box to package them up, send them back. On expensive, exclusive library books, wait until the day of the class. That should say day of the class. And then use the library until you can afford the book, because sometimes you can't afford that book. Of course, Amazon is something you can look at. Look online using the ISBN. That's that number that's on the side of the book. Usually when you have a book list, you know, you can look up the book online with Google. The ISBN number will be provided. Amazon always provides it. Sometimes you can only use the ISBN to order books that are not Amazon. Dell, Apple, and AP, that should be HP, have huge deals for college students. T-Mobile and Verizon have nice deals for first-year college students. You should utilize those. There's somewhere else that always does. Best Buy. Go into Best Buy, there's some neat deals, very low prices you'll never see for Macs and Dell and those kind of computers. Now let's talk about preventing stopout. What is stopout? Stopout means typically it's applied to the first year. I see that it's called something else in later years. It's when a student starts school and they can't finish, they have to leave. During Christmas, they can't go back, or they don't go back for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of reasons for it. On my program, it comes down to a couple of things. I'll hit on the academics here and hit on the lack of socialization. There's one more reason that's cropping up a lot lately that you'll be surprised about. So that's what stopout is, when they can't finish this first school year, they just come home. And there's other names schools have for it, but stopout is the old term that most people use. All right, if a student does not get a 2.0 in 12 credits the first semester, the student will be placed on probation for the second semester. Now, parents, they'll tell the student, and they won't tell you. In the parent meeting, I'll talk to you about that, what you can do that will help with that. And we'll have that meeting on video for you probably in about a week or two. I may just meet with you all live so you can ask questions. It's that important of a meeting. So the student would then be on probation. Notice it's credits or GPA. I've had students 4.0, but they only have 10 credits, so they're going on probation. That's the easiest one to fix. You just take more classes the next semester to catch up. But if the GPA is not met, what if they're 1.0, 1.2, 1.3? Then the second semester, they got to get over 3.0, which almost never happens. So don't get in that rut, students. This is why I want you to take classes in the summer, so they can be insurance. In case you run into trouble, you have those two. I need you to take classes in the summer. We talked about that last meeting. If the student fails to raise the GPA, so at the end of the year it's 2.0 and 12 credits, they'll be asked to leave the college for a year. Sometimes it's 6 months, but usually it's a year. They want you to take classes at another accredited school, they'll tell you, then come back. That means a 2-year college. 90% of students do not return. They usually stay home. When I see students have stayed home from school, didn't go back, and I just find out later, I usually know it was academic reasons. Just remember, students and parents, if you're having trouble with math, had trouble with math in high school, this just in, surprise, you're going to have trouble with math in college. If your writing was always a problem in high school, or off and on was a problem, it's going to be a problem in college. Those are the areas you need to concentrate on. If you had trouble handing in homework, homework's 20% of the grade and it's graded, in college it's graded, and you don't hand in your homework, you're not doing it in high school now, that's where you're going to be in college. If you do things at the last minute, which I have a great solution for that on July 20th, and my buddy, Dr. Corliss Bennett, shout out to you, Dr. Bennett, I think you'll see this video. She'll come in and tell you how to defeat your academic problems. But if you had a problem with last minute doing stuff, you probably had that problem in college, probably even worse. There's nobody there to tell you what to do. How to prevent this? Academic center, campus fellowship and activities. Yeah, if you're engaged in your campus and activities, it's going to mean a lot more to you. And it's, for some reasons, students get better grades. They don't forget assignments. They learn to meet people in their classes. Get socially engaged, fellowship and activities. Break out of your bubble. Don't try to be alone. Meet people and have fun. Get involved in your school. That's going to really help your grades. Now, I'm going to interview Brianna Bennett about that in one of the student videos. You're going to see more about my students talking about activities. I think that's very important. When students want to come home, I see them at Christmas. I always ask them, are you active? And they never say yes. It's always no, for one reason or another. This is why I don't want you working a lot of hours. I want you getting familiar with your campus. Stop all that job work and stuff. So many kids that first semester, I talked to one last night, or her father. She got 2 of the first D's in her life because she decided she's going to work 30 hours a week. No, don't do that. That's preventing. Let's talk about race in the college life. Let's talk about race in the college life. I'm going to talk to you about critical race theory here. I didn't want to, but I have to. My students are still telling me that that's a problem. What's critical race theory? Now, I'm going to give you a biblical Christian perspective, but I think it's pretty accurate. Here's a week in the life of Peter. We're going to talk about a week in the life of Peter. We'll talk about some terminology in CRT, racism versus systemic racism, definition, history and origin. Let's go for it. CRT and ethnic studies are becoming a dominant part of freshman classes. This was a result of the Floyd murder. Maybe it'll start backing off some, but it seems like everybody's putting it in their classes and making projects of it. Remember my 2 most important Black role models. I love me some Booker T. Washington, and I love Frederick Douglass. Hope you saw my video on that when we did Black History Month. I'll include that link below too. Here's a week in the life of Peter. Cornelius, a Roman centurion, was led by God to summon Paul. He's a centurion. He's an army officer. He wants to see Paul. Man, if I heard a Roman centurion wanted to see me and I was a Jewish convert to Jesus, I'd be a little afraid of that. At the time, it was thought by Paul that the truth of Jesus was meant only for Jews. Now I realize I said Paul here, but I mean Peter. I'll change it on the view graphs. So Peter was when he summoned Peter, a vision from God in a dream. Peter did not at first understand. Jesus asked, or Jesus understood to say, Jesus is only for the Jews? Well, in other words, the vision was a vision that showed him and told him that even though he was Jewish, to rise and eat food he would not eat as a Jew. So it was telling him, you're going to become close to people who are not like you. Peter was dealing with this at the time. He was arguing with Paul about it. Verse 15, what God has cleansed, you must not call common. So Peter travels to Cornelius. Well, I wouldn't have done that. And Peter realizes something. Verse 28, Acts 10, you can find this. I should not call any man common or unclean. I perceive that God shows no partiality. Now, I was going to drop this whole line of discussion with you because I felt that Black students already know this. This is some view graphs I had from a while ago. I use them in another context. But I realized that a lot of my students saw Black students, their roommates even, who were yelling hateful slurs at Jewish students. A lot of hate stuff was going on in these campuses. My goodness. But verse 34 says, I perceive that God shows no partiality, meaning racial partiality. God don't care about the person's color. Believers should not be impressed by any old doctrine and theory about society or race. Non-believers should be concerned about how illogical dividing races is. So you got something for believers and logic for non-believers. Anybody that's divided by race, you don't want to be part of that. But critical race theory, you'll see, does just that. Here's some new definitions. The oppressor is also called the supremacist. You'll hear your college professors call white folks supremacists, the ones who are in power. Often they'll call Black people that who don't agree with that, with calling them that. I don't know. Oppressed is BIPOC. BIPOC, you're going to hear a lot. Black, biracial, or as Black. Indigenous, I guess that means natives, I don't know. People of color. That's what BIPOC means. Women and LGBT, these are the oppressed groups. And they all have intersections, they'll say. They have overlapping concerns about the oppressor. You know, I'm here to tell you today that I have white men that are part of my past success, brought me to where I am today, and I have a lot of Black men too that helped me. I didn't find the white people oppressive at all. I don't know what it's about. Now, I remember in 1988, I came up to my desk and walked past a partition. I just won a big award. And some of the white guys were in there saying that this is 1988, almost 40 years ago, that they couldn't believe I won the award. They said I won it because I was Black. I just came to the partition and said, hey, y'all got some kind of problem. It looked like they saw a ghost. And I just walked away. That's the only time I remember anything. Look, you just do you. Now, do we have racism in the world? Sure we do. That's the wrong question. The question is, can the oppressor stop you? And I say no. This oppressor-oppressed stuff is being used to understand conflict in the world too. Like the Israeli government's the oppressor and the Palestinians are the oppressed, et cetera, et cetera. Anti-racist, this is very important. One who openly and actively opposes the oppressor and his power through policies and practices. I should have said anti-racism also holds that we need to fix past racism with racism. So we now need to be racist against whites to fix past racism, which I think is absurd. Systemic racism. America is racist through and through, and Blacks can't succeed with the oppressor in power. Yep. Cancel culture with CRT. Anyone not a part of anti-racism should be canceled. So if you don't agree to be anti-racist, a lot of these Hollywood stars are having to get with the program or they'll get canceled. And I've seen young people on campuses who don't agree with this stuff get canceled, meaning they're put off for boards or not allowed to write in the newspaper. The appropriation of Black culture should be canceled. Yeah, if you appropriate Black music or hairstyles, you've seen it online, they want to cancel. I have this cool series, High on the Hog, on Netflix. Y'all should see it. Look at the first season, episode 4, 4507 to 4628, 4617, 46. There it is. Listen, we Black folks here in America, we Americans. Our food, our traditions, our culture are with us, but there's recognition that we're a part of America. No need for us to be separate and all that. I have a very controversial thinking that many of you will not agree with, and it's okay. This is why I don't believe in, and you can do what you want, but I don't believe in Black graduations. Shoot, I want you gone in that regular one. Hold your head high. Let them see what Black power is. Why are we trying to have our own? And some of them will, that's the only one they'll go to. At least go to both. Say, no, I'm just going to the Black one. Okay. So you got all these groups on campus. UCLA, I think, has 7 different graduations. So the main graduation doesn't mean nothing. We're moving toward a segregated society as we go more into this CRT, this critical race theory. Sad. It's really sad. All right, let's go on. The term equity is taking on this meaning. It means equality of outcome, that no matter what goes on, we want all the outcomes to be racially equal. Well, everybody wants that, but it has to be earned. You know, that everybody gets the same grade of B or whatever, or everybody's on the same level, that kind of thinking. Or we have to have the same percentages of Blacks that succeed as whites, or Hispanic the same as everybody else. It's not just, but see, we should be concentrating on, in my opinion, equality of opportunity. This is what our program is all about, to giving you the opportunity to succeed. That's why all these math curriculum changes have us all upset, saying that Black people can't do math. Let's continue. Here's some of the history and origin of CRT. It's taught in the Ivy League in the 70s and 80s. It's called critical theory. It was a law theory. Its roots are in Marxism and Black liberation theology. In Masters of Education programs in the 90s, we started to see it. It enters the government of large corporations, 2001 through now, especially picked up in 2020. It accelerated in 2020, called by some the Floyd effect. See it in K-12 and college curriculum. Oppressors versus oppressed sociology is typically anti-Christianity and anti-religion. Saw the scripture we had on where the Lord told Peter, all races are equal. It's now being introduced to public schools, etc. All right, here's the professors of these subjects are typically very radical in their views. By radical, I mean they're not mainstream, and they're typically views and perspectives that you weren't taught in your values at home. When you have a professor of women's, gender, African, or Hispanic studies, oftentimes they're very radical. Sometimes you get a teacher that's fair, though, and that is not radical, that wants you to speak your mind, whether you agree with them or not. But not often. Political science, English, oh yes. You're going to get English assignments you just don't agree with, but you got to learn to get a grade and move on. Anthropology, history courses, economics, most times. Sometimes you get an economics professor that's fair, though. Professors in these classes can change your view of God. Be careful. Your parents and your view of your parents, if you don't have a faith that you follow, they'll change the way you think about your parents. I've seen that all the time. After one semester, students come home They're mad at their parents, even authority. And ultimately, these professors are very powerful. Listen to me, are powerful and persuasive people that could actually change your behavior if you let them. There's a lot of schools that got arrested in these encampments that were led there by college professors. Here's the top movements on the campus. We covered this before that are very distracting. And this is where I was saying earlier, a lot of times these activities cause my students to stop out because in our program, they usually have enough money. It's these kind of things that can be very distracting. Anti-Christian teaching, attacks on Christians, free speech policing and restricted speech zones, pro-choice activism, defense of unrestricted abortions, all the way up to the 9th month, anti-Christian regulations, radical fundamental Islamists. And by the way, a student who's like Muslim or Islamic could be your roommate. They might not even be a radical or a fundamentalist. They may not even be trying to force their views on you or take a negative opinion of you. But there's a small group of them that around that usually are. Transgender activism, radical racial activism. Remember, your goal in college is to graduate and get a job after 4 years or less. That's where your focus needs to be. Sometimes these things on this page will cause you to stop out. I'm going to cover the following slides in a separate video for you. I'll do the first slide. I'll just go through them. 5 objections to the Christian concept of God. Religion is a crutch for the weak. Science makes God unnecessary. There can't be just one way to God. Many Christians have done horrible things. A loving God would not allow evil or send people to hell. You know, it's why is there so much evil in the world if there's a God? Let's go through these. Here are the responses. The real issue from number 1 here, which is religion is a crutch for the weak. The real issue is not whether religion can be a crutch, but whether Christianity is true and if God exists. That's really the question, not whether it's a crutch. Many scientific conclusions point to a creator. So science and religion, science and the belief in God go together. We're finding that more and more. You know, when they identified the Big Bang, that was very, very complementary to the role of creation, the idea of creation. So scientific conclusions often point to a creator. And all the time we're seeing scientific and historicity proofs and historic proofs for the existence of things that we know exist in the Bible or in terms of Christianity. Contrary religious claims cannot all be true. So contrary claims cannot be true. We're going to talk about, let's see a video on that in a minute. Bad behavior is evidence of human sinfulness. Everybody's a sinner. Me, you. Is there sinful behavior? We have sinful behavior. There's some people who say they're Christians that are sinful. But we've all made mistakes. Everybody comes short. Evil and hell are the consequences of therefore, evil and hell are consequences of human choices. So the question isn't, you know, if God was so good, why does he allow evil? Hey, by the way, when good things happen, people never say, wow, God did good. Those people would never say that. It's only when things are bad. A lot of times it's the choices of people. The Bible and God's existence. Here's some scriptures for that for those who are into the Bible. I'm into the word, that's for sure. God's existence is assumed without proof. It's foolish to deny God's existence. The inner sense of God's reality, that every living creature, a human being, has proof in the inside of them and a sense of right and wrong. Before I talk about the life confirmation ceremony, I'm going to show you a really cool video that I did on just some everyday, ordinary 4 suggestions, and then we'll get into the ceremony we're going to have to celebrate your college start. Okay, students and parents, here's a little podcast that I did not too long ago for a partner of mine, and has some great tips on it for college students. My existing students got it last year, but why don't you take a look at that right now? Hi there, students. Some parents too, I guess. This is Deacon John Wilson, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church, here with our first podcast of 2024, designed for our students, but everybody can see it. I think we'll cover some very interesting things here that will be helpful in your life. And of course, as always, if you have any comments, please fill out a comment below. And as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you're interested in either widening our content or knowing when we drop new podcasts. Each week at 9 a.m. on Mondays, we'll be dropping our podcasts and making them available to you to start your week, students. So please come in and feel free to do that. And now I'm going to cover a very important topic, what we think your life should look like, with 4 important things to think about in 2024. So students, there's some things I'd like you to think about in 2024 that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks in your spiritual life. I want to see you be successful in life. I don't want to see you tossed around by doctrines flying around the campus. And I want to see you totally dedicated to your future and the things that make you the person that God wanted you to be. So I have 4 things I'm going to be talking about throughout the year. I'd like to develop those now for you. First of all, I want you to remember that people have faults. People make mistakes. People mess up. You have messed up. I know I've messed up, y'all. I'm so glad y'all can't know the things I've done wrong. My goodness, we all have faults. I think somewhere in the Bible it says, we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. In fact, you'll see that scripture right below. So we're not perfect. And we shouldn't expect perfection from people. That means from our professors, from our activity coordinators. If you approach life understanding that, you'll get a lot more enjoyment and fulfillment out of life. And that's the thing God wants us to do, is to enjoy life. So I want you to remember that people do have faults. I have a lot more to say about that in upcoming sessions. We want to really develop that as a topic for you and put it to use in your everyday life and in current events. Second of all, life has meaning. There's a reason why you're here. There's a purpose for your existence. There's a purpose for everything. And it's important for you in your life as you go from day to day to figure out that life has a meaning and find out its purpose for you. You know, there's a great book that I read when I was a very young man called Man's Search for Meaning. And they discovered that some people lived and some people died in difficult situations because of the meaning they felt their life had. It doesn't mean that you're in some kind of a, concentration camp or you're in prison or whatever, but basically thinking every day, Lord, what purpose do you have for me? Life has meaning. This walk we have, there's some kind of purpose to it. Third, when you're going to have difficult situations in 2024, or you're going to have things that are happening in current events or demonstrations on your campus or dilemmas that you learn about in life, that when you see a difficult situation, there is going to be one truth. Don't be deceived by that. And that also means that when there's 2 points about the same thing, one saying one thing, one saying the other, they can't be both true at the same time. For example, up can't be down. You can't be inside and outside. There's some things in life that are basic truths. And you're going to learn about a thing called postmodernism, where they try to tell you that 2 things can be true at the same time. But that's not true. 2 things that are contradictory cannot be true at the same time. And in fact, in a difficult situation, We have to seek and find the proper truth for things. We're going to talk a lot about that over the coming weeks. The fourth thing is Christianity, though it takes a lot of abuse in the media and on TV, it's reasonable. In fact, I may take that on very soon in a session to show you, first of all, God exists and Christianity is reasonable. It's not asking you to do things that are unreasonable. And that you have a faith, I don't want you to feel ashamed of it, because today's society, every day, more and more, is trying to make us feel ashamed. When you look at TV shows, it's always that Christian person that's the one that's the criminal or an error. The media, if they had their way, they would do that. They would promote other religions over Christianity when they have a dilemma. I think it's very important that you understand that you have your beliefs. If you are a Christian for a reason, it's reasonable. It's a reasonable thing to believe and understand. I have a great interview next week with a great man that I respect a lot named Elder Graves, and he's going to talk about these in short segments for the next month or so here. And you want to come here and hear those. It's going to be some very important things that you would find that will be very helpful in your life.
Hamas war and the Gaza hospitals now finding themselves on the front lines. The World Health Organization says it has verified more than 250 attacks on hospitals, ambulances, clinics, and patients in Gaza since the war started. Israeli officials say Hamas has operational bases under some hospitals.
Yeah, the healthcare system in Gaza is near collapse. On its knees is how the head of the World Health Organization describes it. And ABC's Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv with the latest. Good morning, Matt.
Gio, good morning. I just got off the phone with a surgeon at Gaza's main hospital. He says they are down to one operating room. They are just treating life-critical patients. He says because there is no fuel, generators have failed, incubators have failed, and at least one infant has died. That is, Israel continues to encircle those hospitals. We got off the phone also with an Israeli commander in the field who says they've spotted Hamas operatives inside the hospitals masquerading as patients and using patients, they say, as human shields.
This morning, Gaza's main hospitals.
Hi there again. You saw that video just now about the current situation in the Hamas-Israeli conflict, and of course it's dominating the news. But I picked that particular broadcast. It was really back on November 12th, but I picked it for a reason. I picked it because it does, at that point, although now the coverage is different, coverage now is all towards, it appears to most watching that it's a genocide by the Israelis on the Gazans. Almost everywhere you look, I mean, someplace you look, it won't be. But it was properly shown there that it's a little more nuanced than that. Before I go there, there's number one, I want to make sure you know that this all started because October 7th, there was a violent attack on Israel by some terrorists from Hamas that came into Israel and killed up to 400 people. Some say 1,200, some say 1,400, but it was a bunch of Israelis that were killed and Jewish people that were killed in Israel. They went into their homes and did unspeakable acts of violence. We now know they were tortured, a lot of them. They raped women. They did a whole lot of things that I don't want to describe here. It's very difficult to describe. And in fact, they took hostages, hundreds of hostages, 200 and some at the time. Some have been released now back into the Gaza area. And that was October 7th. And right now, that's not being covered in the media at all. In fact, on your campus, you might see protests where they're talking more about what the Israelis are doing in Gaza now as being genocide. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you what to think about that as far as whether it's right or wrong, but I want you to have the truth. And the truth is expressed in that video news story, which I will include below. Yeah, I will include the link to that story in the description. You can look at it yourself. And it's for you as a thinking student on your campus. When you see the protests, You have to understand that the terrorists from Hamas are embedded with the Israeli citizens, with the Gazans citizens in Gaza. They're under hospitals, they're in schools. Now, of course, that means a lot of times when the Israelis struck, they killed a lot of innocent people as well. But you have to know they tried to spend 2 weeks getting them evacuated. And what Hamas did was keep people from leaving, or people stayed on their own because they see themselves as martyrs. But a lot of people, I think it's 200,000 Gazans, did in fact flee and get help from the UN in the southern part of Gaza. Now, it's okay for you to protest and do those things, but make sure you know exactly what's going on in that situation, and make sure you're aware of things. Now, again, the next thing I should say to you is a lot of people are equating it to acts of aggression and violence that they feel the Israelis did prior to October 7th, I guess as a means of justifying it. And then there's other people that will say it never occurred. October 7th, I had a student tell me on social media just last week. I talked to 2 students about it from 2 different schools. They said, hey, we think it never happened. We think it's all a lie. Well, what can you really say to that? So the situation began because of initially the attack on Israel, which I feel is more so genocide. And then you could say with the Israelis do a genocide, you may have that opinion, but actually it was retaliation for what happened on October 7th, and they're trying to get rid of the terrorists so they can live in peace. And the final thought is, remember the Palestine situation. A lot of you feel it should be 2-state solution. That's fine, but remember, there can only be a 2-state solution if one side doesn't think the other should be dead. And that's something that we should think about. There are a lot of Palestinians on the East Bank who feel that they should not be there and that they don't exist. And that's why they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, because they don't view that as being a nation state called Israel. So I want you to think about those kind of things in the coming weeks. Okay, in our last part of our meeting here, I want to talk about the life confirmation ceremony. Why do we have this ceremony? It's a time when the village, which is EEP, can honor youth for their achievement. Your family can be there too, and your friends. Hope they are. And we pray for blessing on your student. It's reminiscent of the Afrocentric rites of passage, which is a big part of the history of our program. We started it as rites of passage. You gave us a young man or a young woman, we give you back a man or woman, parents. That's where it all came from in those days. It's going to be July 27th at our Family Life Center. We're believing it'll be there, or we may have an alternate location. The ceremony is at the end of the program. Youth are presented. It's about a 1-hour program, maybe a little less. Youth are presented officially during the processional. They come in. Youth can present and should present their life mission statements. We're going to talk about how to make those. Some youth are invited and asked to display their talents if they'd like. Youth will hear a motivational speech from someone. Students who have attended the program on a regular basis and also attend this ceremony get priority treatment for career and college retention support. We'll have somebody from our alumni program there. It's a wonderful event. It really is. It's not a very long event. It's right to the point. You'll enjoy the rest of the day. It's on a Saturday, July 27th at 10 a.m. When is the ceremony? There it is. It's 10 to 11:30, July 27th. It'll be at the West Angeles Cathedral or in the Family Life Center. How should youth dress? Formal, but not like a prom, please. Don't, just want people extremely clean, looking good and casual. You're going to be in a church building. Please do not purchase any new clothing. No need to do that. What should youth provide to me prior to the event and when? And you get a copy of this presentation, and you have this video, of course. Life mission statements in 2 to 3 sentences, special awards and readings. 5x7 digital pics, okay? With names on the back properly spelled out. You can send them digital by email, that's fine. A donation of $35 per family will be requested for refreshments and program support. Those of you who've already registered for the event, we're going to be sending that real soon. When is the ceremony? You already said that. This is a duplicate. What is a mission statement? That's probably a good question. Here's Target's mission statement. You know, Target, the store. Our mission is to make Target your preferred shopping destination in all channels, I guess they mean different ways, by delivering outstanding value, continuous innovation, exceptional guest experiences, by consistently fulfilling our expect more, pay less brand promise. That's Target, okay? Google's mission statement: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That's Google. Hey, how about Jesus' mission statement, right? How about that? How about Jesus' mission statement? He went to Nazareth, where he'd been brought up, and he got down and he opened up the Bible, the scriptures, to the prophet Isaiah in verse 18. Here's his mission statement. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Here. What did you come to do, Jesus? He has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. Maybe that's you, student. Maybe that's what God or what you feel you're created to do, either way. It doesn't only mean poor as far as money. It could be poor in spirit. Maybe God sent you to encourage people who are poor in spirit. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. And there's a lot of prisoners that aren't in jail. Maybe that's going to be what you're going to do during in your life and your career. The recovery of sight for the blind. There's some people that can see 20/20 but are blind. Maybe he called you to be a teacher or to do lectures or to give understanding to people. To set the oppressed free. Maybe he called you to do that. And to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. So that's Jesus' mission statement. So you need to do a mission statement. Now, your mission statement could change. But how about just a short mission statement today? Target has a mission statement. Google has a mission statement. Jesus has a mission statement. You need a mission statement, students. Please form a mission statement for our life confirmation ceremony on the 27th. I need them by Monday, July 15th. Send them by email. Remember, we need the picture too. We want to make a little booklet, memorial, like a nice little booklet to memorize, not memorialize, that sounds like death, but to honor what happens on the 27th. So help us out, would you? Tips for writing the mission statement. The statement is 2 to 3 sentences maximum. The due date was set as short-term on purpose. I want you to really think about it in an impactful way over a short period. Quality is more important than time. If you have trouble with starting your statement, please see the following questions. What bothers you about the world? What would you like to fix about what bothers you? So this is going to help you. If you properly do it, it can help you start thinking about your career. What part of Jesus' mission statement, read that over, fits with you? What career interests you? Do not tell why you want a certain major. Don't go into major. I'm majoring in so-and-so. What jobs did you have in mind? What careers? All right. All right, we're at the close of our presentation to you. I want to close with this very interesting video. Do you know you're a leader? You're part of a small group of 40% of all students that we hope will finish college. You're destined to finish. You're going to work hard when you get there. And that way you're destined to be a leader. I need you to understand some key points of leadership. Sometimes you're going to be the only one studying. That's being a leader. Sometimes the crowd wants to go left, you're going to want to go right. But if you do it right, people will join you. Watch this.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. Three is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader.
Look at that.
Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately.
Need you to be
now
a leader.
we've got momentum. This is the tipping point,
Look at
and
this.
now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made.
Well, there you go. That, my friends, is how a movement is made. I need you to lead good movements, though. There'll be people leading bad movements. I want you to ask the Lord or find out why are you here and be a great leader on your campus. God bless you. Thank you very much. Give me some great comments below. Remember, as you go through the presentation, I want to see at least 2, 1 or 2. If you get 3, really good. You'll get a copy of the presentation. Give me all 3 markings that I have in the upper right corner. Give me those numbers and what the subjects are. You'll be eligible for a great award since you've proven you've seen the video, okay? God bless you all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.